So I'm currently going through my normal arena battles for the day, and I wanted to take the opportunity to demonstrate something that can be quite befuddling. It has caused me a lot of issues in the past as someone who likes to use Ravas to just breeze my way through arena, and that is, how do you know where her drones are going to deploy? I'm going to be covering another couple of things, but they'll sort of tie into it. So first things first, how would I expect to take down this Immerspec? Well, I've got Makatep's movement boost on Ravas at the moment, so I can put her all the way over here, which I will be doing in the end. So let's do that. Now, if you don't understand how this works, you might be thinking, oh god, though, if I deploy my drones, they might deploy here or here, and Immerspec will just stand up here and shoot them, and he won't come within range of Ravas, and the Overwatch will just be a big disappointment and not achieve anything, or even worse, if there was if Azrael was here instead of over here, you know, he could fire his active off onto the drone, suppress Ravas, and then everyone else would be free to kind of move up and do what they wish. As it stands, however, I know that the drones will deploy here and here. Do I want them to deploy there? Well, doesn't seem to be a downside to that because they're out of the way, which means that they won't interfere with Ravas killing Immerspec. Now, killing Immerspec in this situation, it's not particularly important. I mean, I'll kill Aleph as well, because Aleph will fly down here or here somewhere, so it's not a bad place to set up Ravas. So there's nothing wrong with deploying the drones there, I just have to think maybe I want to move Xtor up a little bit. Could move him up here just to be ready for the next turn. And if I move him here, I'll have to consider, well, the drone will want to spawn here normally. So if I move him into that hex, where will that drone spawn? So I'll have one here, and then the other drone will spawn here. And that is because the drones will favour spawning onto the highest ground. So in this situation, you've got 3 levels of ground. You've got low ground here, medium ground, I'll call it, and high ground. So when the drones deploy, top priority is spawning on high ground. Then it will be deploying on medium ground, and because there are 2 medium ground spaces and only 1 drone to deploy, the game then goes, which space am I going to choose? And it works around from the 12 o'clock position. So the first drone will always deploy in the 12 o'clock position. If that is not a possibility, then it will continue clockwise until it reaches a hex that is the most favoured level. So the most favoured level being the medium level. So it goes clockwise. Oh, that's low ground. I'm not going to spawn the drone there. Clockwise again. I'm not going to spawn the drone there. And then here, oh, well, there's a drone on the high ground already. So this is the next best level. So I'll spawn the drone here. And it doesn't get round to this place. So the second drone will not spawn here. Now, if I had put Ravas here instead, then you've got a slightly different situation because there is tall grass on this hex. And the drones like to spawn where they're protected. So the fact that that is tall grass will give this hex the highest priority. So the first drone will spawn onto this hex if I have Ravas here. And then the second one will go starting at 12 o'clock. Oh, this is high ground. All the other bits of ground here are either at the same level or lower, so the second drone will spawn there. If I had Ravas here, 12 o'clock, and then the next one around, so you'd have the 2 drones here, which would then get hit by Azrael's active and deactivate her Overwatch, so that this would be a very bad place to put Ravas at the start of the battle. Even though you couldn't physically do it, let's just say for the sake of argument, you can. So that's just a little insight into how that works. So I'll now move row up here. I'll deploy the drones, and as I said, here and here is where they've deployed because I blocked that hex. And just get Actus ready to go. And finally, Tan is not going to be in range of anything if I move him here. And you can get a movement boost going into the next turn as well. Right. Now it's just a question of the spore mine. I want to demonstrate something with it, I hope. So I'll put it here, and that might help in the next turn. Now we will play on. So as predicted, Immerspec and Aleph are down. Now what I want to do is demonstrate that essentially the same system that decides where Ravas's drones will spawn, so the whole clockwise high ground system, is also what happens with Tan. So what I'm going to do now, I think, yeah, I'll put Tan here. And this is the same level that he's on, so if I move Actus here, this will be the best thing to do in this situation, because, oh no, it's not so bad, but you've got the high ground here behind Tan, so if I hit Azrael like that, then there you go, you've got the Skitarii Vanguard spawns onto the high ground behind him, as I would expect. So I'll just heal him up. Get row into position here. Let's take out their row. This is just going to be playing through things, it's not going to be particularly interesting. Now I'm going to try and orchestrate a situation here. So what I will do is, what I will do is move Actus up here, and now when you use Actus as active, which is an ability that affects all of the units around him, you see the same pattern of the clockwise selection. So whoever gets activated first by his active ability will be whoever is at 12 o'clock to him, and it will go to the next one here, and then here, and then here. And the order in which your characters attack can be important when you're using row, depending on where you might want him to go with his passive. So I'll just slow this down and use Actus as active, and you'll see Ravas going first. And then row attacks twice, once from his passive being activated by Ravas, and once because he was activated by Actus. And then finally you had Makatep firing. So it's gone Ravas, row, Makatep, round clockwise from the 12 o'clock position. And again, for the sake of demonstration, according to what I've said so far, Skitarii should spawn here, because you've got 3 bits of ground here that are all at the same level, so this one is the closest to the 12 o'clock position going clockwise. So let's see what happens. And exactly as predicted, Skitarii's been spawned there. And for the moment, I think I'm going to leave this, because there's one last thing I want to do, which I haven't actually tested before, but I'm interested in seeing what happens. Now, I think what I'll do with Makatep is, so first of all, get a Skitarii spawned in. Now if Makatep works the same way, when I use his active, this Skitarii should go first, followed by this Spore Mine, then followed by this Skitarii. So let's see if he works in the same way as well. So Skitarii, Spore Mine, Skitarii. So again, we've seen the same pattern of the clockwise activation. So this seems to be quite a standard thing that happens in this game in terms of how abilities work and how deployments of characters work when they're being summoned in, when it's not just done at random. Of course, if you can predict how things are going to go, you can set up your boss battles better. You can generally make good predictions about how things are going to behave and act accordingly, and that will most likely stand you in very good stead in things like guild raids, where you'll properly be able to plan out exactly what you're going to do in a battle. So that's what I've got to say on that subject. Those aren't all of the situations I've covered in terms of how things like the drones or the Skitarii will deploy. So if there's any barbed wire, then they will absolutely avoid that no matter what, even if it's on high ground. They'll preferentially spawn onto low ground to avoid being spawned onto barbed wire. In a similar vein, they will also prefer trenches over high ground because of the extra protection that trenches provide. And if they are next to a healing hex, rare as those might be, those are, I think, as far as my testing has gone, those are the most favoured hexes. So if you've got Tan next to a healing hex and a bunch of other hexes, doesn't matter if they're high ground, trenches maybe, if he shoots and spawns a Skitarii, they'll spawn onto the healing hex. Even though the healing hex doesn't actually do anything for the Skitarii, it's just seen as, oh look, good benefit, nice and safe, you can heal on here, so it must be good to spawn onto. And that's actually very helpful sometimes in the Avatar of Cain fight, which is something to bear in mind. I think that's all I have to say on that subject for now.